So today's topic is going to be DNA power, unlocking the hidden secrets in your blueprint. So this morning here, we have an expert in preventative healthcare testing. Dr. Lois Nahirney is the CEO of dnaPower. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Richard.
You're welcome. So tell us, what is perhaps your background? What got you into this?
Yeah, well, I'm in this exciting new field of DNA and genetics at the moment, and it's just really exploding and taking off. It wasn't something I had probably initially expected to go into, but 16 years ago, we adopted identical twins from Vietnam, and I started to get really fascinated about what their sameness and their differences, and I started studying DNA. So I had studied healthcare with my doctorate, but now looking at the DNA, I found really fascinating just to see what makes us different. So that was my starting point, and then there was lots of other pieces in between.
Right. Well, that's, people perhaps were watching some of the TV shows, they've heard about DNA testing to do with criminal activity.
Yeah, yes.
But now it really is going to help us reveal more secrets about who we are and how to keep up, I believe, the potential of optimizing our quality of life. Many are phasing in their later years of degeneration. So this can help in that direction by looking at our blueprints, I imagine, right?
You're exactly right. That's what's so exciting about this, Richard, is that when you get your DNA done, it is your biological blueprint. It's where your body is built and wants to go. But the really cool thing about it is that the DNA is just one part. There's a whole layer that's called epigenetics.
Right.
And that's how you live your life. That's your diet, your sleep, your stress, your exercise. It's a whole, your environmental factors. And that determines how your genes choose to express themselves. The good news is we've got smart bodies. They try really hard to keep us healthy. That's what their job is. But when we've got weak genes, it's a little bit harder. And over time, if we're not supporting our bodies how they're naturally designed, that's where we start to see illness. And we're discovering now that there's some very simple things related to diet and nutrition in particular that are leading into chronic disease. And that's because we're eating foods that biologically and our ancestry was never designed for. So there's some really exciting things coming in terms of how you can, by knowing your blueprint, you can support the areas that your body is weaker and try and avoid all of these links that we've got moving right now into chronic disease.
So as they say, a chain is only as strong as the weakest link. So we identify the weakest links there, and we work on them and maintain them, because it just takes, like I know, even from a physical perspective.
Yes.
You have people, they're working out and they got big muscles on them, but they do it all wrong.
Yes.
And this is the one weak link, and their bodies, they exert themselves in a certain way. So all of a sudden, how can this person with big muscles all of a sudden be in this kind of a difficult situation, pain and discomfort and so on?
Yes.
So this makes an awful lot of sense when we can kind of look at, in a way, they're kind of like secrets because we've never been exposed to them. And now we can put all these things under the microscope and really kind of get down to it all.
Exactly. I mean, it's so incredible actually what's happened with sequencing. So the reason we can do this and why this is so new is because genetic sequencing and the human genome was first sequenced in 2003. And they had this really big project that started in 1990, and it was to understand the human genome because they wanted to understand the damage in the human cells related to Hiroshima. And we had no way of knowing how, a nuclear blast could impact people because we didn't actually know what the code was in the first place. So this huge project came into play, cost about $3 billion. And then the whole cost of DNA has just been on this exponential curve down, and it's now in the range that we go to these super sophisticated labs. We've got just a world-class lab that we use to process the DNA. It's 99.99% accurate, and you can now, for just a few $100s, get a window into your cells that we've never had before. And you've got that chance to say, if I just had that little bit more information, I wonder if I could be healthier. And that's because we know that we've got we have different ancestry.
Right.
We have our bodies were built for different parts of the world. They were built for different food. And we've now come together and we're kind of a mix of genetics based on where we've all come from our ancestry and our foods. We eat all international foods.
Right.
And a lot of that may or may not be right for us.
Exactly.
So we like to say any diet could be exactly right for you, or it could be exactly wrong for you.
Yeah. Well, like I know for some people they got to stay away from nightshades because it creates a lot of inflammation, right? And
Yes.
when they do get away from it, it changes things. So it's kind of, all these books, all these experts, all these coaches
Yes.
out there, but they don't necessarily have all the details
Right.
to what could be necessary for the individual to function.
Yes.
So I think that, people get exercise coaches, they got whatever, they get on all these different programs and doctors they see, and then they try to mitigate their way through, again, diet, supplementation, exercise programs, and hey, now we can get it, like you say, it's 99.99% accurate. Okay, so we can get more detail to do the right thing. And when your health is your wealth, and consider that making that investment. So there is always a price, but I tell people, good health pays, and when you're not good, when you're sick
Yes.
or disabled somehow, it's going to cost you a lot more.
Yes.
And then think of what people could be spending on visiting doctors privately, coaches, and so on. So why not open yourself to some simple testing, okay? And you go through some of the packages later on to describe it. That's going to make things available to people to get more accurate guide, an accurate guide as to the steps you really need to take to offer and have more quality of life. So I'm really on board with this. This is why when I met you at this health show, I got to talk to this lady.
Yeah.
And here we are. We're doing the show together. Because for me, I figure I've done pretty good at 66, but I want to just keep myself in this optimal performance for as long as I can.
Absolutely.
I'm working with a lot of individuals that are 40, 50, 60, and you see them degenerating and, and then they're going through all kinds of therapies. Well, now we get more of the detailed information, so how much more quicker they can stay on top, get on top and stay on top afterwards, right?
Yes.
So,
Well, this is now the foundation of precision health and personalized health, because it's your first, it's the starting point. Your DNA is what creates the map for your entire body.
Right.
So by knowing that, you actually can build on top of that much better. So that's a starting point. The second is our cells have the ability to live to 100 or 120. We've just gotten used to the fact that because we aren't serving our body the way it needs to, that our cells get tired, our metabolism slows down, we start to get chronic diseases. That's part of the aging process. It actually does not have to be.
Right.
We really can control, we say take power over your health, dnaPower, because you've got the opportunity to get that roadmap and make some better decisions. I'd love to share you my story about that, if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely.
So years, as I said, I got interested because I have identical twins that are adopted, and when you've got adopted kids, you want to know a little bit more about it. So I was actually at my grandmother's 85th birthday party, and I have a cousin who has been doing this DNA work for years, and she said, you've got to try this. And I thought, for the sake of my kids, I was going to do that. And so I ended up getting mine done along with the kids, and what I hadn't expected is that when I got my DNA results back, that it was going to solve 4 years of actually very serious health issues that I'd been facing. And so I was dealing, Richard, and I had been going to doctors for years because I had a problem getting a full breath. So every time I tried to breathe, I couldn't fill my lungs. And that's very alarming, and you're under oxygenated, that can't be good for your body. And so that was one thing. And doctors then send you to a respirologist, an allergist, and we had CT scans. We're trying to figure out why I can't breathe. But in addition, I was also anemic. I had, very low blood count, so they wanted to give me iron. And then, separately, I had restless leg syndrome, and the doctors want to give you drugs for that because your limbs vibrate at night and it's hard to sleep. And I was exhausted, and yet I was, on the surface I looked healthy, and it was just hard to figure out, what's going on. It was all dealt with completely separately. And at no point did any doctor ever contemplate that I might have a nutritional issue or deficiency. And when I got my DNA results back, I discovered that I've got very weak genes related to processing vitamin Bs for my body. And Bs are a foundational nutrient to support your cell functioning, your ability to convert iron to oxygen, so that was affecting my ability to breathe, its energy levels. It was affecting all aspects of my health, and I didn't know it. As soon as I started taking a special methylated B vitamin supplement, suddenly all of these symptoms started to go away, and I was back to myself. And so it was crazy to me. I became really passionate about DNA then, because a simple thing that nobody had looked at was creating chronic disease and issues for me. And here, with just some vitamins, I was able to solve the problem. So I became a real convert and started looking into it in detail and ended up taking over this DNA company. So I've been really excited to do this. Plus, I've learned lots about my kids. So there's so much information I now have to support my children's health over their lifetime.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think this why we're here. We want to share this information to empower more individuals, because I meet so many people. They're on a quest of keeping themselves healthy, and with today's environmental changes, with the onslaught of so many things, of all the toxins, and we see the cancer rates going on, it becomes much more of a challenge. So why not take the puzzle out of it and get more of your details, so that you're more in control, right?
Yes.
Because you can go to so many different doctors and you can come out with various opinions, and we have to look at this thing holistically. What is the body actually doing, and what is it telling us? So it's on those little details. And I think in the specialization that we have today, you go to a heart doctor or a lung doctor or a kidney, they just look at that one aspect.
Yes.
You can no longer do it like that. That's not going to get
We're
you.
integrated. We're a whole integrated organism. And the incredible thing is that we're discovering nutrition. We are every single thing we put into our bodies. Totally. And nutrition is going to become, they say, you'll see quotes on this, that it will become the future of healthcare. It is that nutrition, and a doctor of nutrition will become the source of how we keep ourselves healthy. And so diet is just absolutely foundational. And that's why it's so fascinating that we can now look into our bodies to discover which aspects of our diet were we built for.
Right.
So what were we built for? And so we look at things like, were you meant to be on a high carb, a low fat, a higher fat diet? We look at proteins, sugars, salts, gluten, sugars, and vitamins.
Right.
And we know that we are helping provide people insight into their bodies, and we're changing people's lives and their health every single day. It's really exciting. You get this window in that you've just never had before.
Absolutely. Well, I think that even Hippocrates said, let food be a medicine and medicine be a food. We're back to several thousand years ago. So things have not changed really, right?
Yes, yes.
And so it's great. Food is so foundational. And then being able to get on the right program, it is your medicine. And to get away from taking all these pills. So, again, I always recommend people food first, then supplements. By the nature of the word supplement, that's when you start to add, because you're not getting sufficient.
Yes.
So you need more of these things.
Yeah.
So, so people are probably very curious as to what is this DNA testing?
Absolutely,
right?
yeah. So let me show you, because often we don't even know what it looks like. Right. So, I'll show you a little bit about what it is. It's actually really simple. So the thing with this isn't like blood tests or anything else now. This is a simple cheek swab. It's as simple as this little, Q-tip that goes into the inside of your cheek. You rub the cells, and then this goes to the lab for processing. So really simple to do. That's all it takes. You can do it at your home. You can have, Richard, anybody can do a simple cheek swab, and you can have that data. And then within 2 to 4 weeks, because it takes time, the processing is very complex still to extract the DNA and to read it, but you get that information all from, as we said, a single cheek swab. But then what we produce is we've spent, our company's been around about 10 years, and we've spent years combing all of the research on genetics related to diet, fitness, and nutrition. So we don't focus on diseases. So if you've got some sort of disease condition that runs in your family, then that's probably a different process. But we know that even still, if you've got health issues, that food can become foundational and a supporting element to solve that. So what we do is we've curated and brought together the best research globally on diet, nutrition, fitness, and several other aspects of health. And we put that together into a report that we hope is simple and easy to understand and read. So you get some directions, some instructions on what it looks like, and it's as simple as green is regular normal genes, and red is genes that have variations in them. And just to talk a little bit about what we study, we have 3 billion nucleotides or DNA points in every single cell. So the DNA has got 3 billion letters, and sometimes these letters change. And there's most of our DNA is actually exactly the same. Any guesses how much the same we are, Richard?
Well, from what I understand, about 99.99% or something like that.
We're about 99.8% exactly the same in our bodies. The exact same letters in the same places. But the ones where they change, it's like a typo or a little mistake, or it's changed for very good reasons because we needed it for survival. So some of those are because it helped our species and our line of ancestry to survive. But in some cases, it's a mutation that just faulted out and has gotten replicated. And so what we're trying to do when you've got the red here is we target and we laser in, for us, on just a few hundred points in that code that specifically influence your diet and your nutrition. And so where it's red, and these are very common in the population, those are the areas to focus on. That's the places that you are most likely to have health issues over time. So your body's really smart over the first 20, 30, and 40 years. But you know how many people, you hear a lot of people after they turn 40, they start to say, oh, I'm feeling tired, I don't feel so well, I'm starting to put some weight on, more pain in their knees. Most of that is actually diet related because we're eating foods that our bodies can't break down and metabolize properly. And when that happens, what is your body going to do with it? It floats around, it turns into inflammation, it turns into fat. And so our genes have kind of dimmer switches and on and off switches. And around age 40, the dimmer switch is going down, and suddenly stuff that we got away with eating is now having an impact and showing up, and we can't figure out why. The most classic I find is lactose, and this is actually in this report here. This particular line is somebody who is all red on lactose. There are 2 genes that are critically related to whether we can digest lactose, and most of that comes from just a part of Europe where the gene varied for people to survive on animal products through cold winters. Most of the rest of the world doesn't have it. It doesn't mean, or you lose it after age 3, after you stop, you're not being breastfed. And so when we have that lactose, if you don't have the genes, your body tries really hard to deal with it, but after time it just can't, and it starts coming on in fat and inflammation. And so if you know whether you've got the lactose gene or the gluten gene or things like that working for you, then you can make good choices around how much of that to have. So we give a summary where it's red, more than half red, we say that's the place to focus. And so if I was working with a person here, the first one here is carbohydrates. This is fats and some proteins. And when I scan this, I go, okay, this person has weak carbohydrate genes, fabulous fat genes, and weak ability to get the protein they need out of their food. So this is a person that should be on a low carbohydrate, high fat, higher protein, easy digestible protein diet, and then their body will just work better with the food that they've got.
So within a family, let's say, among siblings, is there typically similarities?
Well, absolutely. You're getting one gene from your one of the chromosomes from your father, one from your mother. So we've got 23 pairs of chromosomes, and it depends which one you inherited and which half of that from your parent as well. So what they had. So it's interesting because one side of my family tends to be slimmer and the other side a little bit heavier. And that's because we inherited the genes a little bit differently as a family and as siblings. For example, my mother is fully green. She inherited, Central European genes that can process lactose. My father is more Eastern European heritage, no lactose gene. And so he would never drink milk, and my mother can have the cheeses because ancestrally they could get away with it. I got half and half.
Okay.
And so I did fine on lactose the first half of my life. After 40, I'm going, why am I getting, inflammation? Why am I putting on weight? When I got my DNA results, I went, oh, I wonder if I never dreamed lactose or gluten could be my cause because I'd eaten it my whole life, no food sensitivities. I pulled it out of my diet for a period, immediately dropped the weight that I'd been starting to put on. Wow. So there are lots you can learn. And then on this page here is a whole page on vitamins. And this is where I had critical problems in my Bs. And we know that genetically most people are weak in their Ds, and we need more vitamin D support. And then if you know the balance here, you can gear your vitamin regimen to support where you're weak. So it's kind of, here's your little mini roadmap to eating and living more healthy.
Right.
And then just to finish off, there is a page for every section. So wherever you're red, that's the page to read. So even though there's 70 pages here, you just need to go, okay, these are the 3 weakest areas. I'm going to focus on them and read those 3 pages, and that's how I'm going to put together my action plan.
So that saying, you are what you eat, digest, absorb, cells utilize, still holds true with all the modern technology.
Absolutely, absolutely. You want quality food. We say if you've got weak carbohydrate genes and strong fat genes, and you're eating, poor quality carbs, absolutely you're going to start putting on weight. It's going to be a problem. And again, now you've got an opportunity to know that.
Well, so with the obesity problem that we have so much now in this world, really, it's becoming, and then the ramifications from it, diabetes, and on it goes.
Yes.
Right? So
the huge increase we're seeing in arthritis, diabetes, Alzheimer's, inflammation, many and much of this is linked to our diets and having diets that our bodies are not able to manage.
I'm just thinking of the statistics, let's say sugar intake. Around 100 years back, the average person would consume something like 20 pounds of sugar annually.
Yes.
Right? That's, in addition as a sweetener. And today it's like 150, 160 pounds average.
Yes.
So we can look at it in the, again, you take those statistics and you just look at the visual presentation of the people out there.
Yes. Well, and let's be clear. I'm trying to help guide you here on good food that you can eat, because even good foods can be tough on your body. But at no point, we now know sugar really is, we have to have it in tiny quantities because our body, it is a bit of a poison for our body. And we have to pull a lot of sugar out of our diet. But and anything that's highly processed, we need to eat real food.
Right.
So we just have to be sure real food is going in our bodies.
Okay, so here's the thing. So we know the procedure in a way that anybody can do this. They need to order a kit, and we take saliva.
Yep.
And people have seen my other videos before too. I always work with the DNA as well.
Yes, which was that's in part how we connected, because you saw the DNA cheek swab links.
Absolutely, it's our unique frequency.
Yes.
We are each unique, and so that's kind of how I've been starting to work with the DNA level of things, and the DNA, the testing of the individual, and so I just love this. So. So why does it really work? Again, I guess some of that we've elaborated into it already. But so we know that how did you got into it. So when people get into doing this testing and following this blueprint, this roadmap, what is typically, what type of changes, what kind of time frame can they expect to see some of the changes happening for them?
I mean, some of it can be pretty immediate. If you've got some of the clear ones, like for me, it was vitamin Bs. And it takes 2 weeks for vitamin Bs to kind of get worked into your system. I noticed a dramatic difference in 2 to 4 weeks on health issues for 4 years. So that to me was just like, oh, I couldn't believe something that simple solved such I ended up in a hospital with blood transfusions. I was so ill. I mean, it was really, I was in very serious shape. So, I mean, for me, that's incredible. If it's lactose, I mean, we've done a university study, and we had several people on our university study that were going to physio for years for their knees. You could see, you know, was a marathon runner and loved to run, but had all this pain, was going for physio, saw that he was completely red in the lactose, pulled it out. Within 2 weeks, inflammation that he's been suffering with for 2 years was now gone. Several people, you know, we've seen a lot of women who will come in and say, you know, in fact, the one I went through here, a woman who believed that she needed to be on a low-fat diet because that's how we were raised the last 40 years, was fat was bad. She has fabulous fat genes, and in terms of processing. And so when we switched her on her diet and reversed it around, which she was nervous to do because she says, I've tried every diet. When she did that, she lost 40 pounds over 3 months and 3 dress sizes. So it took her 3 months in switching. So, I mean, you can get results pretty quickly on some of these things. But I do want to say is we aren't a silver bullet. And so the other thing that's important, this gives you your blueprint, and we like to tell people, just remember 3 things and focus on that. Just remember that, because it is a lifetime guide for you. But there's also important things that we're learning about our gut biome and how we need good diversity. You know, avoid antibiotics unless you're exceptionally ill. And rebuild, take probiotics and support your gut health, because it has a gut-brain conversation that causes you to crave things. And so, you know, watch your good, you know, build out your gut bacteria. You still need exercise, you need good sleep. All of those things contribute. So the DNA is the foundational piece of the puzzle. And then after that, you build on that through, you know, diet, health, sleep, nutrition, learning more about your gut health, making sure you exercise. All of that's important.
Yeah, that's so key. Foundations. So sometimes people want the magic bullet, but no, it's always in the foundations. You get the foundations correct. As I understand, there's something like 50 to 100 trillion cells in the human body, and they guesstimate somewhere around 100,000 processes per second per cell.
Yes.
So if you took 100 trillion at 100,000 processes per second, what happens in the body is huge.
It's
and
huge.
It's all an inside job.
Yes.
Right?
Nature has it figured out, but you got to work with what nature gave you.
So nature is your friend. So use things. So again, living foods and so on. When we put life gives life. So you know, we have it in the words. You mentioned the word antibiotic. Anti, against. Bio, life. Probiotic. It's life supporting, for life, right? Yes. So once we look at these things, so we're inundating, and what I understand, even let's say with the food choices again, okay? Antibiotics, 70% of the antibiotics produced gets into the food chain. And so when we're eating foods, by which typically animal foods, and they've been fed so much of the antibiotics, we're eating that food, and we're also bringing the antibiotics. So keep that in mind.
Exactly.
Okay? That so even from a food source, if it works for you, but the probiotics, so you can put it from things like fermented foods. It's a huge way by supplementing, but you can use that in a food form. And we pretty well, all of us need to take in more of the probiotics to keep that healthy gut.
That's right.
And the gut, again, is connected to everything. Studies have indicated that depression and a lot of these brain functions that are not adequate through the phagus connection, gut phagus brain connection, all, you know, it's all there.
Yes.
We have actually another brain that's in our gut, right? So it's all basically connected. They say about, for example, serotonin, which is a hormone. Serotonin is used also for digestion, but serotonin is also what makes you feel happy. So if your digestive functions are really low and your body's producing not sufficient serotonin, or more serotonin is being used for your digestion, then how can that get up into the brain area to make you feel happy? So it's going to bring you down more depressed. So the answer really is in the foods. And I'm just thinking of so many people that, because there is someone has asked a question, how much does it cost?
Yes.
And there's a price for everything. And as I stated before, the cost of not doing this, you're going to be lucky if you can escape by not taking good care of it. Some people, it seems like they can smoke, they can drink and all that, and they seem to do pretty good. But I always say, how much better could they do if they really did start taking care of themselves, right?
Yeah.
But relatively to a lot of other people, they seem to be doing probably pretty good. But okay, so you have to look again at an investment.
Yes.
But then look at the return on investment, ROI, right? People who invest in all kinds of things, and they're looking at what they can get as a return. Well, the quality of life, that's what's going to give you a real return. So you do have to invest and make the wise investments. And people have, for their financial investments, they have whatever, financial consultants and experts, economists. But here we are. We can use this.
And what I like about it is that you only do this once.
Right?
Because your DNA doesn't change through your lifetime. I actually can't tell you where your body is today.
Love that.
I can only tell you what your roadmap is. And so then you've got to figure out what's happened on top of that. So you only need to do this once. And when you look at how much we spend on supplements, well, hopefully we do.
Or medications.
Or medications, or not feeling well, and the lost cause, or the issues with that. This is a wise investment in terms of data for your body. And so what I like is I come from the science side on this. I'm loving how much we can use the science now to help us.
Right.
And I will comment as well, though, now that I've gotten into the biology part of the DNA, I can't believe how important nutrition is. So I'm deeply studying nutrition. Want to emphasize, I've now become a full convert to organic food, really watching the quality of all food that I eat. I've also become a huge advocate for supplementation because our food supplies are depleted, because our soils are depleted, and so many things have occurred, avoid GMOs. And I wasn't in this place even 1 and 2 years ago. It's the studying of it, what it's doing to us biologically. Our bodies were designed for whole, real, natural food. So we'll just comment on that. Just before, I'm happy to talk any of the costs, but I do want to just point out, Richard, that there are, the diet was the main one. We consider that the foundational one, but we also get, we also produce quite a bit of other information. And so just to share, we work with a lot of fitness trainers because you think about what you pay for a fitness trainer, anywhere between, $50 and $100 a session. And they only have the history that you have given them, but we produce a fitness report, and in here helps provide more guidelines about how you can tailor the workout to lend itself more to your body. Like we are endurance, we tend to be more endurance or more power oriented, and you want to gear to that for your workouts. You'll get better results. We need to know if we've got muscle or ligament strength or concerns, how we manage energy, and if there's any heart or stroke risk as well. So that's information that is possible here. And then there are several other things that we have found are important to know that are linked to everyday health, because our space is preventative health. So things like detoxification. So how well does your body detoxify? If you don't detoxify well, you need more antioxidant support. That's going to be important as part of your regimen. We look at inflammation. If you've got weak inflammatory genes, probably omega-3s are going to be more important for you, going to be very critical. We also look at hormones. We know many of us are having hormonal issues. If you have weaknesses in how your body processes the hormones, you're going to have to be very careful about, some of these pseudoestrogens and biphenyls in our products, and I might not have all the words right, but those things become more important in your diet. We look at methylation, which is basically the engine of the cell. And the last one that we do, which is the only one that crosses slightly into disease, is brain power. And that's because I wanted to know what my risk of Alzheimer's was. Turns out it's fine for me, but the real surprise, and we look at, in this one, Alzheimer's. We also did Parkinson's because we had friends who wanted to understand that, concussion and depression and several others. My surprise was when I got my children's results back, they're at very high risk of concussion and Alzheimer's. They have they've got the gene combination that's highest at risk. So that has changed now how I'm working and managing with my children. We don't do contact sports, for example, for them, because we need to keep their brains safe for their lifetime.
Right.
So these are all of the other ones we produce. So that's just when we look at cost, what it affects. So when we process your result at the lab, it still is an expensive process to get the DNA produced. So we have all of those lab costs, and then we are able to put it, we think, and we hope, into a very easy to read format. Just getting the diet, which is our starting point, is $299. So that's the price for this, to invest in understanding what diet is best for you. And if you're interested in all of the reports, we have a package price of that for $999.
So how many reports would that be in total?
7 reports in total.
7 reports.
Yeah, 7 reports.
So you average that out, it's kind of like just over $100 a report.
Right, and what we're doing is we're studying about 250 specific genes. So you're getting about, the insight into about that many genes, which affect about 70 areas of your body and of your health. So that's what we're taking a look at.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So we have a question here for you from probably one of our audience. How does the mind affect DNA? And can meditation affect your DNA?
Great question. I think that we are on this amazing opportunity curve where we are going to finally understand more scientifically how critical brain, thought, meditation, positivity impacts our genes and our wellness. So it's a tricky thing to measure currently because it almost moves into the area of quantum physics.
It does.
And we're seeing more evidence about how quantum physics is working and how this really is critical and impactful. But I absolutely, your genes your DNA code is expressed through epigenetics, and absolutely your mental wellness is essential. We hear stories of people who can halt their cancer or cure them simply through the power of the mind. So through meditation and real positive thinking, my belief is that you can help instruct your DNA on how it should be expressing itself positively, even when there are weaknesses there. So it's just a wonderful contributor to all aspects of health and life.
And to add to what you're saying, in that when I'm working with my wands and testing different things, like even the power of the words that we use. So again, it's our expressions through language, but even thought and so on. I see this, what can I say, for me it becomes more and more reality, even through the life force that's there in the words. Dr. Emoto's work with all the water, exposing it to different words, different images, whatever, and how then the crystal forms of the water when they flash freeze it and photograph it.
Yes.
And consider our bodies were predominantly water as well, right? So when physical water out there is being affected, well, how about this? So our thinking, so this is saying your stinking thinking gets you into trouble. So if there's a lot of negativity, well, get out of it, and that's often part of conditioning. And we got to get ourselves, whether you do physical conditioning, there is the mental conditioning that we start to have to change too.
There is. There's actually really good studies even here in Vancouver, and it's something that are related to the telomeres. And the telomeres are the caps on your DNA, and the telomeres wrap around, and over your lifetime they shorten, and at some point once they run out of room, it seems to be that's when your cells die and your body dies. And they did studies that showed people who were under incredible stress had shorter telomeres. And people who meditated, actually, they did it before and after, they went through a long program of meditation, could actually lengthen their telomeres.
Wow.
So there's something about how it interacts that supports how our chromosomes function and how these telomeres work that is contributing positively.
That's so fascinating, what the abilities, what were being brought before us now, how that can change life. We've got many factors that challenge us.
Yes.
But I think that, under a lot of heat and pressure, we're also going to start looking for it, because if people, live kind of a sedentary life. They don't do anything about it. Yeah, this is just the way it is. So sometimes when we get these challenges, like you had your challenges that got you into this field, and myself had some minimal challenges, but I was just like, I got to find out. And the more I go into this journey of exploring these things, I find it just fascinating. I just want to know more. I want to learn more.
Same.
And then it's take it out there, share it with the people. Because so many people are looking for answers, and you know, with the scale of economics, cost Vancouver very expensive. You know, how can you do better, right? And for yourself. And I'm looking at these costs involved in here. Okay, so there's a price for everything, but people can start with a basic package, right?
Well, they
do
can.
The diet part first.
Yeah, or start with that. And you know what, I would love, Richard, you know, for anybody who's interested, because I believe so much in the work that you're doing as well, and I love having the science background as well, which is just so concrete and validates all of the other things that we see as well. But I'd be very pleased to offer, you know, your clients and people who follow you 10% off the diet and 20% off the total power if they are interested. And
well, thank you.
And we could post something online with a promo code or something like that, just to thank them for watching and for being interested, and to say, give it a try, see what you learn, and what are the clues that you can find out about how you can live a healthier life.
Well, this is phenomenal. Great offer. Take the opportunity and find out more about yourself. And I know that people that come and watch these shows, they're really want to act on things. But like you say, we give them the roadmap, we give them the information. Knowledge is power, right?
Yes.
So this is the whole intention, what we're doing now. We want to empower you, because we like you, we want to share because we love the audience out there, right? And
I'd say especially for what we find is many people who are coming to us, they're wanting to be, they're really concerned about their health and wanting to stay well, but we do have a lot of people who just can't find why they're not feeling well, and this is a great tool to try to get some of that insight. Again, I always try to never overpromise on anything. I say every customer loves what we have, but I always say, remember, it's only a piece of the puzzle. But it's a great piece of the puzzle to be able to know your unique blueprint roadmap, your own body recipe for that matter.
Absolutely. Well, let me see. So how do you do it for the audience? They can
you can post something on your website, or they can do a question through you. We'll come up with a code that we could manage or we could put together. And I would say, the code would just be the title of your company. So we'll just do that as one word. But so that's a possibility. And or email us, and we'll feel free to go onto our website, dnaPower.com, learn a little bit more there. And it's just real fun. And I should mention as well that should anybody choose, we have DNA trained dietitians and fitness trainers that can help coach you after, should you choose to add that piece on, just so you can get some insight into what do you do with it.
So it's a full package. We have all the information. People can get the details for that.
That's their choice. You bet.
That's their choice. Okay. Well, anything you want to add?
Well, the only thing I want to add is that we're on a whole journey of wellness, and we all need to be taking every single step that we can to be well. There's so many things that you're doing that looks at our energy and how we manage that positively. Adding about, remember to be careful about your foods, take vitamins, learn your DNA, do anything that you can to be healthier, and then we all serve the world and the planet in a better way when we do that.
Exactly. We're here for a purpose. We're not just to be consumers. And if you feel that this is your journey, you want to have living more purposeful, effective life, we can help you in that. So we'd like to thank everybody for being with us here this morning. Add any questions, send it to us, and we'll see if we can answer that for you. So thank you once again. Remember to share this and come to the website, revisit. We've got some of the other videos that you might want to do some more detailing on. And we'll see you next week. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lois.
Great. Thank you very much, Richard. And happy long weekend to everybody.
Yes.